because my mindset is I'm going to isolate myself. I don't really want to talk to people. I just want me and God. That's it. And God doesn't really want that. You know, he wants you to heal, but he also wants healing with others.
Amen. You just said something. So
Right?
God does not want you to be alone.
Hello and welcome back to Adventures in One Love. I am Lydia, and we are excited to be presenting a series called It Starts With One, a series on singleness, dating, marriage. What does that look like for singles in the church, out of the church? We wanted to have some real conversations. So I am joined today by people that I love. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. But in this episode, we are actually talking about dating in the church, dating out of the church. But we kind of wanted to hear the real, y'all, they are very brave. We're all kind of be super transparent kind of about what did it really look like. Like this was the theory, this was the philosophy, but this is how it panned out for me. So I am remarried. We are a blended family. I've been remarried for almost 14 years. We have 5 children. And my experience in dating was outside of the church, but I am raising young adults in the church. And so my views have definitely changed a bit. I'm going to pass it over to Alex now.
All right. So I'm Alex. I am 30 years old. I am very single and experienced dating. It's very...
Drop your number in the comments.
Link below. Just kidding. No, but then what was it? Dating experience?
Yeah.
Very limited, but only limited to within the church.
Within the church. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we are also joined by Catherine.
Yes. So my name is Catherine. I am 30 years old. I've been married for about 1 year and 2 months.
Newlyweds.
Made it for a year. And I have experience in both, in church and outside of church as well.
And Kareem, thank you for joining us, the gentleman at the table.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm Kareem. I'm 34. I've been married for 2 years. So
newlywed as well. And your dating experience.
Dating experience. I've in the church, out of the church. I've seen a lot of it.
Okay. So you're going to hear a lot of different perspectives. We don't necessarily, this is not one theory. We're really just sharing our stories and our experiences. And so we have been really blessed to have some pretty candid conversations already. I mean, this is obviously a topic that's really passionate to all of us. But I want to start with you, Catherine, because you really had a really diverse experience. You know, you have your son, you brought, and he's 11 now. Mm-hmm. So share how some of the philosophies of dating that you were taught or ascribed to, how did that work out for you? And what do you think about those things now?
So I did grow up in church, in Catholic church, which didn't really mean anything other than going to church on Sundays. That was honestly the only time you heard about God. But my dating experience was just kind of all over the place. I did date inside my house. My mom was very open in regards of me bringing my boyfriends in the house, but I wasn't really taught how to act, how to date, how to have a purpose or even have a goal in mind. It was just, you're dating this person, then, I mean, it's fine. There was really no boundaries at all. It was just, like I said, all over the place. I didn't really have any type of dating. I would just date whoever I wanted to or however whatever was out there for me to grab,
So we kind of mentioned that like the friends that you make and that you choose kind of determine the dating pool.
Right.
For you. And so obviously that's community, but that's also like there are groups that you gravitate to. There are groups that you are like, nah, I'm good. Right? So you avoid them. But we talked about how your self-worth really does that decides who your friend group is, but it definitely decides how you date and how you walk that out. And poor Kareem, y'all. I mean, we're enjoying a great meal, but he's, I think, shocked at some of our revelations about, when you're not brought up in church, and I just say not brought up in church. Let's just say when you're not brought up to really love the Lord and know that he loves you and your identity is not rooted in Christ, you're really looking for everybody else to tell me that I'm good, tell me that I'm worth loving. And if they don't have that, then they definitely can't give it. But something that we'd mentioned, and, Catherine, you and I had the same kind of view, is a good guy made us a little uncomfortable.
Right.
And that was a little shocking for you, a little hurtful for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, I think most guys who were the quote unquote good guys, and they heard a girl tell them, "Oh, I would date you. You're just too nice." It's like, what, you want me to punch you? How do you want me to treat? I mean, I can do that if that's what you need, but how do you
Don't
want
do
me
that.
to? Yeah, how do you want me to treat you, other than nice? And for me, I still can't quite rationalize why that's a thing with some women, not all women, but some women. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, that's your idea of who you want. And, I had an experience like that where there was a girl I was just head over heels for. And she, we were friends, and she said she liked me. I said I liked her, and all this fun stuff in high school. And, when it came down to the dating conversation, she's like, "Oh, Kareem, I would date you. You're just too nice." And I'm like, what? And then, fast forward 10 years later, after she's been with all the guys who were not nice, now all of a sudden I'm nice enough for you. It's like, no, it's a little too late. I'm good. I'm really good, actually. So, you guys were kind of giving some of the logic on that. So, I mean, what's your thought about that?
I'll speak for myself because I did kind of share, my husband now, we dated in high school. And it was my first experience at like real love. I'd had other boyfriends before, but Greg was genuinely loving. He was genuinely thoughtful, and it made me super uncomfortable. He did partake in some recreational activities that were not really safe or good or healthy. And this is part of our testimony. It's not something we're super ashamed of, but because of his lifestyle, he thought when we broke up, it was because he was doing these activities, like he was smoking weed and things like that. And I was a good girl. I was pretty smart, and I was, I had motivation. I was motivated. Well, part of the reason that we broke up was because he made me a little uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do with that. It was a little unnerving. But then I also grew up in a very traumatic home. I had a very traumatic home life. And I was very professional at covering it up. I worked really hard to hide the dysfunction. And I think that's why I did so much in high school. I was so busy because I didn't want anybody to have a clue about the way that I was living or what I was living in. And so when that started to bleed into our dating life and he started seeing some of this dysfunction, I was like, no. He's too nice. His family's too normal. I got to break this off. And we broke up. But in his mind, he thought we broke up because he smoked. And so he thought, well, I guess I can never date a good girl because I had a good girl and she didn't like my lifestyle. So then he proceeded to date a lot of the wrong types of girls for him. Wrong for him. He's very tender-hearted, and a lot of people took advantage of that, and they were rough, but he thought that's what he deserved because of this dating
But the real truth was that you didn't feel comfortable enough to let him love you.
That's right.
As opposed to, like, the words that came out was you're too good of a guy, or sometimes that may come out,
nice,
or you're too nice, but it's not really necessarily that.
I don't think I said like you were too nice. I can't even, to be honest, I don't even know how we like broke up. I think it was just like, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. I mean, it was before the age of cell phones, and when you can like keep tabs on each other the way you can now. We just kind of stopped dating. I mean, it was obvious, but we remained friends somehow. That even throughout the years, when he got married and I got married, we talked and we were still friends. So it ended very amicably. We were still, it was good, but he never knew the root of why that relationship didn't work. And because I couldn't verbalize, I mean, I can verbalize it now, but then what am I going to say? You make me uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't,
But
hello,
now
I was a
looking
kid.
back, you were like, Yeah, I think there was a part where it was like, you're too nice. You're too,
Yeah.
And then when we were talking earlier about, we're suspicious of guys that are really nice because it's like, what do you want from us?
Right.
You know, like, why are you acting this way?
That's so weird, like, because it begs the question, what are they supposed to act like? Like, what guy would get your attention, right?
Well, also, girls, there's an understanding, okay, guys only are after one thing, right?
Well,
And
most of the time they are, so that's true.
So then it's like, okay, you're so nice. Like, I don't know. It's like, you're too nice. It's suspicious. Like, how am I going to pay for this later? Like, I don't know. It's almost like that kind of thing.
That is so interesting. How am I going to pay for this later?
Yeah.
Like, whereas like
What
a
are
guy
you
who dates
hiding?
around, you're like, I know what I'm getting into.
Right.
I know he's
like
straight up and real about it.
almost
It's
scary.
a self-worth thing, though, right?
100%.
Because
Part of it is a self-worth thing,
I
but
think
part
it's
of it is a
100%.
suspicion thing because it's like I guess in a lot of experience of girls that I've heard too, for the guys that they've dated are not nice. So then here comes this genuinely nice person. It's like, oh, you're like all the other guys. You're just really good at hiding it, which is really scary. Because it's like what you said. I know what I'm getting into with the jerk. I don't know what I'm getting into with this nice person. Like, you're hiding.
Is this a Dr. Jekyll,
What
Mr.
are you
Hyde thing? Like,
hiding?
what?
Yeah.
But
it's not. And it does speak to the self-worth thing, too. A lot of girls, think of all the girls who can't even take a compliment.
Oh, it took me a
You'll
long
say-
time.
the self-deprecating kicks in as soon as you say something nice, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just how we grow up, how we're, what we see, what we're used to.
I mean, how many times did y'all hear it? Like, who do you think you are?
Oh, many times.
I mean, like, it's
Many
a part of
times.
control, right? It's part of like the adults controlling you. Like, who do you think you are? You better sit down. Like,
Right.
but it's also, it tells you, like, who do you think you are to think you are worthy of ... And
Correct.
that really infiltrates all of the decisions that you make.
Right.
See, I didn't have that, though. Like, I had the opposite, I think. Like, my parents always spoke life to me. They were like, you are precious, you are pretty, like, whatever. But I think I also saw older women in my life.
I speak life to you. I tell you you're bougie when you need it. I mean,
Uh,
no, not the same thing.
No.
Okay,
No.
sorry. Go ahead, back to your story.
Not quite. But no, like, I would see older women in my life, like family members and like even like, I don't know, just older girls. And it was like a natural thing. They were self-deprecating. And I thought that's just how girls are,
So it became part of your
So
language.
it's just like girls don't like themselves. That's just how we are. That's
Yeah.
just, self-esteem. What is that?
and if you like yourself, then like you're one of those girls.
then you're prideful.
Conceited.
And
Yeah, then you're conceited.
And those were the brats.
Yeah.
The girls who liked themselves, those were like the ones
Isn't
that you
that
didn't
so
want
backwards?
to associate
Right.
with.
Y'all, please love yourselves. Like, you are made in God's
Yes.
image. You're loved. You're
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah. So then I don't know. So then I think as girls we internalize that,
Yep.
and that makes it hard for us to receive
Yeah.
good
What
attention.
were you saying, Kid? I'm sorry.
And sorry, I was kind of going back to Mama King's. I think honestly, when you come from that background, from just a broken household, you honestly want somebody that will not be afraid of what you have to show. To me, it was, you're too nice. You're not going to be able to handle what I have.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
that's
okay.
really good.
It's really heavy. My parents
Yes.
are divorced, and your parents are together. They've
My
been
mom
together
was
for
crazy.
30 years, right? Like,
I don't want
how
to
does
damage
that-
you.
Yes,
Right.
Yes, it is a form of protecting the other
Oh,
person too. I mean,
absolutely.
it's a self-worth thing, but that's super fair.
Yeah. And to me, it was more like, well, I didn't know my dad. How are you going to handle that?
Yeah, it was the same
like,
for
I don't-
me. I didn't
Right.
know him. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how a man is supposed to act. So how am I supposed to handle what you're doing to me? Like, it was just, it's difficult from your background. I think it all depends on that. That's how you decide who your friends are going to be. That's who you decide who you're going to date, and what's right in your mindset, and your experiences will actually determine what you think is right and wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear all day long back and forth what's right and what's not, but what you see and what you have experienced is very different.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
mom and dad are supposed to be together. That's mindset. You grow up with that. So when you don't have that, how are you supposed to think that
Your rationale just
Right.
changes. You're like, wait, if this is how it's
Absolutely.
supposed to be, and I don't have this,
something is wrong?
then
and
what?
that-
How do I do this? Then?
Right. And did I do something wrong to
Yeah.
deserve that?
I want to jump back to that in just a minute, but I don't want to. Kareem, you really, when I shared my experience with Greg and the way that he he obviously saw himself valuable when we were together. There was value in that. And then when we broke up, he just kind of went in a very different direction.
Yeah, I had the same experience.
Yeah.
I mean, just from a guy's perspective, you know, there's like a myth that goes around that a guy can only love once, and then after that, everybody gets the scraps. Like, that can be true if you don't allow healing to work the right way. I remember when I was in college, I got saved later in life, and I've mentioned that before. I got saved in my 20s, right? Most people like find Jesus at the altar of summer camp, right? I didn't do that. I found
You're not
Jesus,
alone, brother.
like,
I'm with you.
as an adult.
You're in good company.
So when I did, like, my life radically changed. And because my life radically changed, I wanted to do things the way that I thought God wanted me to do them, right? And I met someone in college, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is the one for me, right? And we got into this relationship, and it was great in the beginning. And then very, very quickly, it took a hard turn left. And it ended up being one of the most devastating relationships that I've ever been in, hurtful on so many levels. And then after that happened, I'm like, well, I thought that was the one for me, God. And clearly I didn't hear you right, because I thought you said this was the one. And because I heard you right now, I've got all the self-doubt going on. I've got all these faith challenges going on now. Well, if I misheard from God about that, what else have I misheard from God about? And then it got so tormenting that I was like, you know what? I'm doing this my own way, which led me to a relationship that was completely outside of God. And it was just like, I did exactly what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. And I remember very distinctly, I remember this thought process. I said, I heard God like kind of tell him, this is not for you. This is not the path I have. Don't do this, when I was interested in this girl, and don't do that. And I'm like, no, back seat. You got the first drive. This is my turn to drive. Well, that first relationship, that was absolutely terrible, right? It only lasted like a year. Well, here I find myself 6 years later in a relationship with a woman I'm not married to, living with, and now this whole heartbreak is something completely different than the first one, and it's because I took the driver's seat. And for me, that's what kind of formulated my thought process that, well, wait a second, just because I don't believe, because of these experiences, that there is the quote unquote the one. What I believe is like walking a path that's honoring to God and building relationships with people and allowing those relationships to become what they are. And I believe that on many levels, God allows you to choose who that person is that you spend your life with, based on, you know, compatibility, based on attraction. All of these things just kind of factor into that. And when I stopped looking for quote unquote the one, I found my one, if that makes any sense. And she is and I had already met her, didn't know it, right? If I had just been patient.
Okay, you bring up such a great point that I want you to just, so you kind of said like, the Lord was like, no, that's not for you. So the Lord was leading and was that giving you some.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he's, when I say that, like, I want to be very clear, because I had said in another segment that, you know, God doesn't care. I think that's a little facetious on surface level. I don't mean that God is not caring, he's not intimately involved in your life and things like that. What I mean is, as long as you are living a God-honoring life, he allows you to make choices. He gives you the wisdom to make choices, right? Because you're a child of God. You know, he tells us in Isaiah, he wants you off of the breast milk and eating meat now, right?
That's right.
A good father, right? He raises his child, and when he sends them out into the world, the only thing he can do is hope that he has taught them well enough to live a righteous and fulfilling life, right? That's what a good dad does. Why would we think, if he's our father, that he would do anything less? You guys like jumped on it because I have a daughter, right? And I always joke about how crazy I'm going to be with her future boyfriends and things like that. And they're like, no, you gotta step back and let her make her decisions. You're right, I will. And what makes us think that God doesn't do that too?
That's fair.
That's good.
I think there's leading, but I do agree that there is we get to participate in the process. And I think there's also, you know, related or unrelated for whatever reason, it just popped in my head. Like, you know, a lot of prearranged marriages, they're not exactly like, this is the person I pick for you, get married. It's really like, these are the people that I think will be compatible. And you get to choose, but this is your choose.
And God does that, right?
This is a selection that you get to choose from.
He does that, right? Here's the church. He said, don't be unequally yoked.
That's right.
Here's your selection. Here's your pool. Well, that's a pretty big pool, right?
It's a little bigger.
You can still be unequally yoked if you're dating
You
someone from
can,
church.
you can, and
Yeah.
but that's. I feel like you still have, again, that choice. And here's the pool. You're right. You're absolutely right with the prearranged marriage thing. Like God says, in my will, these people are X, Y, and Z. Here you go. Here's your pool that you can choose from. He's giving you the ability to choose within confined, the same way you would do with your children, right? You don't just give them, free reign and you can go and choose. No, you set out parameters. This is the choice that you can make, but it needs to be inside of these parameters.
I think back to what we were talking about earlier about self-worth. Like, I think I heard once that you choose your partner based on your emotional health level in the moment. So if you have a low emotional health, you're going to choose less than maybe you actually really do deserve. And then that's why healing is such an important part of it. But I think, to your point, like we can think, well, I'm going to church every Sunday, so I'm getting healing. And there's a difference between going to church every Sunday and really knowing the Lord and knowing his word and knowing his will for our lives.
And also like needing deep healing.
Yes.
Like it wasn't until I broke up with the first guy I dated that I was like, man, I really like, I don't know. I met him in church and we definitely were unequally yoked. And I didn't, and it's funny that you say that because you're like, oh yeah, who you're with kind of speaks to where you are emotionally. Like I thought I was pretty confident. Like I thought I was pretty good. And then I'm like looking back and I'm like, I'm not trying to like trash talk anybody, but like, I'm like, wow, you dated that, Alex. Like you did that. So maybe I do need healing. And again, I was very broken and it wasn't really from that. That was just kind of like the door that opened. I was like, okay, it's months later. Why am I still upset about this? I think it goes deeper. And that opened up my journey to healing. But then again, like it took a guy that I met in church that I was like, so
to break the myth.
Just because y'all meet people, I just want to say something real quick. Just because y'all meet people in church does not mean that they are Christians.
Right. He was in ministry school.
I had a.
I mean, sheep and wolves in sheep's clothing.
No, I had a person in my life at one time, and he outright told me. He said, "I only date hoes in the church," and I said, "What?" He said, "I only date hoes in the church," and he's straight face, no joke. I said, "What in the what do you mean?" He's like, "Because at least they got a chance." That was his logic. So he went to church to meet women for that purpose.
Interesting.
Wow.
There are guys out there who think like that. So just because you meet a guy in church doesn't mean
that's right.
There's got to be more of a process to it.
Right.
Yeah.
like that really does.
Yeah.
And that's what brings us back to this whole dating thing. Like,
well, I'm going to jump back first to say, Katherine, you also mentioned there's the healing that you need, like maybe from a broken heart. But when you need healing, like my brokenness did not start from my dating life. Like my brokenness was like before birth, y'all. I mean, if I'm going to keep it real, right? I mean,
100.
That's right. So there was surprise, here I am. Like I was not a plan.
Right.
And that comes with a lot of brokenness. That comes with that spirit of rejection, death. I mean, those are real spiritual things that can really affect your the way that you see yourself. And to your point, you kind of mentioned like, okay, I need healing from the relationship, but there's a little more work.
Right. And that's what happens. You start kind of building up to it. You come with some type of baggage into a relationship, whether it's just dating or an actual marriage. You bring that. You bring the whole family with you.
That's
know
right.
what I mean? For example, I was a one-night stand child. So
Same.
hey, not hey.
She said,
gosh.
hey,
No.
but the same. Yes.
Right. So, when you know better, you do better.
That's
right.
Yeah.
So I didn't know any better. I didn't know how a man was supposed to act. I didn't know what to expect. So I took whatever was given to me, and I was okay with that, because at least I had someone.
That's right.
That's being lonely. A lot of people see it as a bad thing. Well, I don't want to be by myself, so I'm going to date whoever is at my reach, whoever it's liking me, I'm going to like them. And you sacrifice so many other things that you actually do care and you do want, and you say, you know what? Maybe I don't want that, because your mind starts changing when somebody loves you and you just take it as how it's given. When to me, like you had a heartbroken episode and you turned completely around. For me, it was quite opposite. My heart was completely broken. And I remember I was in Machu Picchu, one of the best views that, 7 wonders of the world. And that was the worst experience in my life because I had my heart broken while I was out of the country. So I couldn't even say anything. I couldn't go meet them, nothing. I was just over the phone. This is what's going to happen. A 4-year relationship done over the phone. So to me, I was not Christian. And I remember that was my first experience with God. That's how he talked to me. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't talk like that. Like, that's not me. So I knew it wasn't.
Isn't it funny how he talks in the brokenheartedness?
Oh my goodness
like,
gracious.
He starts speaking.
Yes. He was close to me. I was fatherless. He was close to me. I was heartbroken. He was close to me.
That's right.
And I didn't know what was happening, but I didn't know that I wasn't by myself. And to me, that just turned my life all around. I was able to go to church. I remember this is Valencia. This is not even a missions trip. And there was 2 Christian girls. Holla. They spoke life to me. It was just amazing. And to me, that changed my life. I came back to the U.S. and I was in church. I didn't know anybody at church. And I remember just being so heartbroken. And I remember the pastor just, doing an altar call. And I didn't care. It was more than, 400 people in that church. And it was our church. I just jumped to the altar because I didn't care. My heart was broken.
Yeah.
When you're heartbroken, you don't really care what's going on around you. You just want healing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I seeked. I said, my heart's been broken, but my heart's been broken for a long time. Very long time.
Because it didn't start with that relationship.
Absolutely not.
There was history there, right?
Right. God
It's
knew
just
exactly.
opened the door.
Oh, absolutely.
To your healing.
Right.
So, how did your dating life look then? Like as an adult, now you're single and you're dating in the church with a child.
Yeah, absolutely different. So I did mention that I was pregnant when I was 18. All bad decisions. I mean, I don't want to say my son is a mistake because he's not. He's a blessing. But my decisions led me to that, and the people that I was surrounded by, that was my pool. Mm-hmm. Right? Your pool is whoever you're around. So that's what I grabbed. That's what I was able to get. And once I was in church, I was like, I'm not going to date for right now because I know I need healing. That was very, God showed it to me right away. He said,
Amen.
No, you need to heal from so many other things. Let me show you. I remember this so vividly. He said, let me show you what a man is supposed to look like, right? And at that moment, I was like, well, who is it? I'm looking around like,
where you at, though?
Right. Is he sitting next to me, And it was so much deeper than that. I dove right into the Bible. I remember my heart was so broken. I remember sleeping with the Bible in my heart, and not being able to understand what was happening. Right. So I remember it was a year and a half before I was dating again. So I did take that time. I didn't say, I hear that's a lot. Like, I'm not going to date for a whole year. Like, you can't set times like that.
I was going to say, that's so cheesy. Right? I hate when people do that.
I do too.
Like, did God tell you that?
Side note, everybody who says that doesn't mean it.
Right.
They don't mean it. In my experience, and I've never been that person because I've seen so many people be like, I'm not dating for 6 months. 2 months later, got a ring on your finger.
But it's funny. I like where you're going there because that same thing happened to me. I want to let you finish, and I'd love to because it's the mirror. I see the mirror, and that again, that's one of the ways it's God, right? You test the spirit by the spirit. Like,
Amen.
I see the mirror with what happened afterwards. So I'd love to hear the rest of that. What were you saying?
So like I said, I was a whole year and a half. I wasn't dating. I had real good friends, real Christians, that's very different from just any Christian. It was like legit.
They were walking it out.
Absolutely. My friends. And I had one of my friends that was also going through a divorce. So we were both like, we're not going to really do this men thing for right now. We're just kind of healed. And we heal each other, help each other, talk to. Because my mindset is I'm going to isolate myself. I don't really want to talk to people. I just want me and God. That's it. And God doesn't really want that. You know, he wants you to heal, but he also wants healing with others.
Amen.
You just said something. So
Right.
God does not want you to be alone. Like
Yes.
Right.
people, so many people after that heartbreak, they retreat into themselves.
Yeah, and they go into
that is the
isolation.
most dangerous place you
Right,
can be.
right.
That's right.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I'm sorry. Go
It
No,
ahead.
was
that's so good.
I
That's
know.
really valid.
And to me, like I said, I was not dating, nothing. I met Landis when I first got to church. That's my husband, by the way. We met in 17. That's when I started going to church, but we didn't really talk to one another. I just kind of knew that he was there. And, you know, time went on. He was dating somebody. I wasn't really into nobody. And after that, we started talking. And I think we wanted to talk about, you know, getting burned at church. That was something really real for me because I said, you know what? I don't really want to date just anybody. I want to make sure I date somebody that has at least the potential of being the one. So
You had a plan.
absolutely.
There was some thought,
Right.
forethought. Yes,
Right. And I think dating for me in that whole year and a half, I had my checklist and I said, you know what? This person has to have this person has to have that. You know, it wasn't so much of the physical. To me, I had dated so long that physical really didn't mean a lot to me. I rather have somebody that's, you know, 5 foot short than somebody who doesn't have the heart for God.
Shout out to those
right.
5 foot brothers out
that's what
there.
I'm saying.
We got mad love for
I
you.
mean, that would be okay, but you're not 5 feet.
Right, exactly.
You're
Right.
tall.
You know, I'm 5'8". So to me, it was more important for a man to love God. And, you know, that was my first line. I remember it right now. I can see my checklist. And it was God has to be first in his life. If that's not negotiable at all.
Amen.
Like if that's
That's
not
a
going to
great
happen.
place to start.
Yeah, and that was not negotiable for me. The other thing, you know, it can get practical too, because I
Sure.
think people need to know that. You don't have to be so spiritual as far as like, he needs to know, you know, from the front to the back of the Bible. Like,
Right.
you know,
Do
have
you
to
know
be
from the front to the back of the Bible?
Right?
you know, cover to
Elizabeth?
cover.
Yeah. Keep it real.
Cover to cover.
Keep it real.
You know, for me, it was, you know, has to have his job, has to have a car, has to, you know, have some type of ministry at church. That was really important to me. So when, you know, Landis and I, we dated, we met at H2O, holla H2O. And that was pretty
That's
much
a program at our church.
Yes,
by
it
the
is,
way.
ma'am.
See, I was
Yes,
drinking
yes.
water bottles in the lobby. Like, what?
Yeah. No, you pass out water bottles.
Exactly. So we go
In
downtown,
yeah.
and that's how me and Landis, he was driving that day. And I remember just kind of joking with him, and he didn't really feel my joke. Can you believe that? Any which way.
I can.
Yeah.
I love you, Landis.
So
Nah,
that's kind of how we started, you know, talking to one another. He really liked that. I liked what I saw. But we didn't really, that was in summer. We didn't really started dating till winter. So that's like July. We didn't really start
There's
dating
no
in
rush.
October,
You
November.
had a whole Gilmore Girls season, in like from fall.
And you'll be surprised
summer
for what
to
I'm going to
winter.
say next. But we really kept it really down low. I told him and I said, I don't want us to be together at church. I don't want us holding hands. You know, it started from boundaries. You know, don't text me after 10 p.m. Don't hug me. Like, no hugging, because he's a very touchy person, so he hugs everybody. And I'm like, I'm not just anybody, so you're not going to hug me like that. You know, so there was a lot of boundaries in ours, you know, and I remember him showing up to my house one day, just knocking on the door, and I was like, no, no, boundaries number 4, you know, don't just show up at my house. So I had really clear boundaries of what I was looking for and what I wanted. And he met every single one of them, you know, and
he honored them.
Absolutely.
That's like the bigger thing is that honoring them.
Right. And that December we were engaged, and that's when everything blew up at church because they're like, I didn't even know you guys were dating.
Because it's none of your business.
You know what's funny? I remember that. I remember Landis was like, because I knew Landis, we were friends. I saw him at work all the time. And he was like, oh, I'm engaged. I'm like, pause. You were Hold on.
You were one of those people she talked to. I'm not dating for a year. The whole time.
The whole time.
Secretly
I've been dating.
engaged.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know you were seeing anybody. He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I had
We were just very protective. I just want to put that out
which
there.
is fair. And again, there's just so much mirror there because, and it's so funny to kind of watch how God does that, because when I broke up with that 6-year crazy that I put myself in, immediately, like the first thing that I wanted was not to date other people. It was to find healing because I realized that relationship was so bad because I had still not healed from that first relationship.
Right.
And it wasn't that I needed to go and find healing in all of these other places. Really and truly, I was still upset with God. And he's big enough. He can handle that, right?
right.
He's okay
That's
with
right.
you being upset a little
Amen.
bit. But I was still upset with God, and I needed to find healing in that. And the first thing that God opened the door for was community in the church. I had been saved since I was like 23, 24, but I had never been involved in church, like period. I didn't tithe. I didn't go to, singles group. I didn't even really go to church very often, which is kind of crazy, right? And when this happened, like the first thing that started, God just kind of put it in the way. I remember getting back to Orlando, so supernatural, right? I had moved to Pennsylvania to live with this person against the wisdom of all of the Christian people I knew, right? Went to Pennsylvania. We lived together, all this craziness. And I didn't tell anybody I was coming back home. The way it happened was she came home one day and, we had been on the rocks for almost a year. And it was just, I had crazy anxiety. I had no peace, by the way. Zero.
That's
God
a
will not
clear
allow his
indicator.
child to have peace
Right.
if you're not doing what he needs you to be doing.
Right.
For almost 4 years, there was just zero peace. And I would take the train from Philly to Lancaster every day. It was a 2-hour ride. And it would just be anxiety. And I'm not an anxious person. And I just remember coming home. I was on the train. I was on my way home because when I never knew if she was going to be there or not when I got home. But I'm going home and I remember praying this prayer. This is a prayer I prayed. First of all, before that, my friend had called me because my friend, good Christian guy, said, we can't be friends anymore if you're living a lifestyle that's not pleasing to God. That is friendship. We had been friends for almost 13 years. That is friendship. He said, we can't be friends anymore. And I just remember riding home on the train one day. I was just lonely and isolated. And I prayed, Lord, I need peace. Whatever that looks like, I'm willing to accept. I hadn't talked to that friend in a year. He called me that day. He said, how you doing, man? It's like, I feel terrible. Explain everything to him. He says, you need to get out of that. Like, that just needs to be over. Nothing different than he told me before. And I remember coming in the house after I talked to him, and God just, the first time I'd heard him in years, he said, leave.
Oh,
Just
wow.
leave. I said, okay. She came home. I looked her in the face and I said, do you love me? Yeah. Do you still love me? Yeah, I think so. Do you want to marry me? And she starts crying. I said, say no more. I will be gone in, I think I said 30 days, something like that. And just like that, the relationship was over. Went in my bedroom. I said, I'm going to let myself cry one time. Man tears, stop right here. They don't roll over down.
You get one.
I said, I'm going to cry this one time. I'm going to let myself feel this pain, and then I'm done. When we broke up, it was the first time I felt peace in years. That's the first thing. Second thing was I told her I'd be gone in 30 days. And I remember it was the craziest thing in the world. Job market was not great. I had like 5 callbacks for jobs. I had 3 companies fly me to Florida to interview me and hire me.
Wow.
And just out of nowhere, like God just started lining things up. A friend went and shopped for an apartment for me. It was the craziest thing in the world. And I was gone the next week. And I have never felt more peace in my life. And the moment I got back, just like you, got plugged into a church. The way that happened was I flew back home. I had met some random guy at a church that I had no idea about, just went to church one Sunday. And I get back to Florida years later, and I get a message from this dude. And he's like, hey, you don't remember me, but my name is so-and-so. His name's Mark. He's like, I'm Mark. And he's just like, would you like to come to church with me this Sunday? I was like, what? It's like, yeah, we got a singles group, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I guess. Completely forgot about it. Guy calls me like Sunday. He's like, come to church. Went to church, and that was the first day of the rest of my life, as I like to say it.
Hallelujah.
That's so beautiful. I wish that was like, coming to the Lord and getting healing first, I think is ideal. I think for us, for Greg and I, you know, having the history that we had, we both came to our relationship extremely dysfunctional still and broken. I mean, I got like, after we got married is when I gave myself permission to give my life to the Lord. I had a real mentality of get your act together, because God doesn't like God doesn't like that mess.
I feel like a lot of people feel that way. They feel like they need to get themselves together before
they come to God.
And I will tell you, it is only by God's grace that we stayed married, because the hot mess that we both were, like, we both literally tried to sabotage the relationship before it actually happened. I mean, it's kind of funny now, because, you know, we made it. But it really speaks to what it could have looked like if we had both taken the time to really heal from our divorces. And I'm going to say this really quick, after we were married, we there was healing, but it was like very baby steps. We were willing to do it together, but it wasn't until his ex-wife moved to the same state to be with all the kids, so they can have both parents in the same state. And we realized that there was still so much brokenness from the divorce that I actually told him, you've got to go to divorce care. You've got to get some help for the wounds, because I wasn't a part of it. So I can't, that's only between you and the Lord. And there's no shame. We were married. I think he was the only person like actively married and like happily married in divorce care. But it took that kind of humility to say, like, this marriage is important. Really being healthy and healed is important. And I need community.
Yeah. Right.
I need some help.
I actually do think there's a lot of people that are afraid of being broken.
Yes.
And I think, you know, God is, you know, he's just so wonderful. But one of the things that he can and he knows how to do, not just build you, but he knows how to break you as well.
Oh, come on.
Right? So, you know, he knows exactly what you need. He knows exactly how to break you to the point where you need to drop to your knees and you have no other choice but to say...
He broke my bones, literally.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just saying.
Until I had gotten that brokenness out of me, if you would, I wasn't ready to meet my wife.
Correct.
Because the person that my wife... We joke about this all the time. I met her back in college when we were in school together, and I was attracted to her then, and I shot my shot, and she shot it down. So, but... in that state, I would have ruined it.
Absolutely.
Like, I wouldn't have been ready for her.
For sure.
And after the healing took place and I had gotten to that place where I was like, okay, God is my comforter. He's my provider. He's the only person that I need. Then the door was open for me to actually meet her. And even that story is supernatural. I'll tell you another time. But just phenomenal, like how he did that. Right. And I wasn't ready for her, and I wasn't ready for any relationship until those wounds had been healed, and until, again, I was doing those three things that I mentioned previously: living a life that was honoring to him, living a life that was pleasing to him, and living a life that was filled with love. So those were the things that needed to happen.
So I know that we are running short on time, but I do want to just talk very quickly about the actual dating in the church and when... like the person that you're dating, maybe
you took us off subject. It's your fault.
My bad.
It was a really good conversation.
Yeah, that was so good.
This is what needed
but
to be
I do want to
about.
kind of just, what is that like? If you're in the church and there is a community and you're looking for your spouse, like how did that look? I mean, because you didn't date, but how did that look for you?
For me, it was like, it was strange. So when I was finally like healed and ready to date, I'm going to be honest with you, I dated a lot of girls. Like, it wasn't like I dated this one person. One of the proudest moments for me in my dating life, right, after God had kind of healed all that crazy, is that I was able to treat women the way they needed to be treated, with respect and with dignity, and in a way that was God honoring. Somebody told me something interesting. They said, always treat a woman of God like a sister in Christ.
Amen.
And one of the proudest moments that I had was I had dated a girl, and I just decided, she's beautiful, phenomenal person. I had just decided this is, the compatibility is not there. I don't know why. I want it to be there, but it's not there. And I had to have a conversation with her and tell her, hey, I don't think this is going to have a future. And she just looked at me and she said, I respect that. And she said, I said, are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. She said, I just want to tell you that you treated me with nothing but dignity, respect. And she said, you have set the standard for my future husbands.
man.
Hallelujah.
So I dated a lot in the church, and it was hard. There was two things dating in the church that just blew my mind. One of them was there's this mindset of property and ownership when you date in the
Yep.
church,
Yep.
Especially when you date in the singles groups and things like that. That, well, if I dated, Martha over here, Martha knows Susan, therefore Susan can't date me anymore. That blew my mind.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that.
Very present.
So that was
But in the world, you mentioned it, bro code.
there is but it's a little bit different
Right.
because like bro code, it goes a little deeper than that. But it blew my mind just because we're all Christians, we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. At least how my naive mind was, right? Hey, it should be okay for me to like this girl, and then we don't work out, and I'm able to try my hand. But that culture was so pervasive that I came to church because that's where I thought you should find a spouse. But I dated, and then word got around that I dated this girl, and now this group is off limits to me because they all went to school together or know each other.
They all know that you dated this girl.
And they all know I dated that girl. And then and the rumors that started were crazy. It's like scandalous. So I had to leave I went to online dating. I'm going to be completely honest. I went to online dating because my pool was now all of a sudden, by no fault of my own, completely cut off because these girls are all a part of the same group. We're not allowed to date.
I think and that was at your church that you were at before,
Yeah.
but I see that in a lot of churches.
It's church culture. It's not
Yeah.
just that church.
And it kind of makes you wonder, like, what is being taught in the church? And I don't know if it's taught in the church or it's just like, I don't know, like.
It's not
There's
taught. That's the
something
problem.
that's-
Well, it's not
there,
taught, and
you know?
we're called to righteousness. But what does righteousness look like? Right? I mean, like if you know the word and you really pursue it and you study that, then you can define what does it look like to be sanctified and holy. But if you are a young person and you're dating and you're like, be holy, be righteous, you're like,
God doesn't talk about dating in the Bible. So it's kind of like
Yup.
you have to, first of all, be spirit-led, like we talked about
right.
before.
Yep.
Because if you're not spirit-led, you're just going to make the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
But you also have to listen to wisdom from other people. And the problem is I can't listen to wisdom from other people if they're not talking about it.
That's right.
So many singles groups, they just throw these mixers and they throw 120, horny 27-year-olds in the same room and say, all right, y'all found a spouse now. And you expect that to go off without a hitch?
Yeah.
But
Which-
nobody's really speaking
what does that look
to
like
it.
for people who don't want to get married, but they want to hang out with other singles?
You need to find another group. Because if you're in a singles
That's
group,
terrible.
no,
It's
geared
it's
to
not.
his heart.
If you're in I have a problem with this.
I can hear the passion
I had
in his voice.
it's about to come out. I've had two experiences.
Press that.
One of those experiences was there was a married woman coming to a singles group because it was young adult single, and she did not wear a ring. And if you do wear a ring, and if it's not a diamond like a rock, and it's just like a band, guys might think it's a purity ring. And guys were approaching her.
That's a whole
It's
nother
like, bro,
subject.
you're in a singles group. And she got mad. You're in a singles group. What do you expect? We're all looking for a spouse. And then all of the singles and then if you're single and you're coming to a singles group, you should come in with the knowledge and understanding that most of these people here are looking to get married. This may not be an appropriate setting for you.
That goes back to having a purpose when you're dating.
Exactly.
Right?
That's right.
So you should know your environment. So you
Yes.
should know where you're
Read the
going.
room, guys.
Read
Read
the room.
Exactly.
And they would get mad and tell people, like, I wish all these guys would just stay away from me. You like that attention, Becky. You're in this group because you get the attention. Otherwise, you would be in elder
Sorry,
care.
Becky.
You can find ministry in a million
Well,
other
and
places.
that
Don't
does
come to a
speak
singles group.
That is super fair. And I think that does speak to like pursue hobbies. We've got writers group and we've got other things that when pursue the interests and the gifts and talents. But I love this conversation. Guys, I hope this conversation has blessed you. I know we can continue talking because there's just been
Sorry,
so much.
Becky.
Sorry, sorry, Becky.
We're calling this episode "Sorry, Becky."
Sorry, Becky.
I just want to add
Please,
one
I
last thing.
want to give everybody a chance to kind of close and like share your heart on this topic. And thank you, Dennis, for the grace.
Shout out, Dennis.
Yeah.
So I honestly do think if your choice is to not get married, like you have set your mind, you say, you know what, marriage is not for me. There's no shame in that. That's completely okay. But you have to make sure that you get to that point, after you've been healed, not just saying that because you're hurt and you think
Not out of
everybody's out there
Yeah.
to get you.
Not out of
right?
bitterness.
So
yeah.
you have to really know in your heart and be content with that and say, I love myself. I just don't really, I don't want to get married. Not because you don't believe in marriage. I've heard that a lot. I don't believe in marriage. That's why I don't want to get married. You know, that's not healthy, right? You need to be content with yourself, make sure that you're completely healed, and then you're able to make that decision. I remember saying that myself, you know, I don't believe in marriage. I don't want to get married, all married, you know, and it wasn't coming from my deep heart, right?
Yeah.
Me, I wanted to get married since I was 7 years old.
That's
You know,
right.
I always wanted to have that. What I saw in movies, that's what I wanted to, but I never saw it, so I didn't know that it could be for me. So I always hit that, and I always said, no, I don't want to be married. But I was saying that from a place of anger, of hurt. So when I did meet Landis, I was very straightforward, and I told him, and I said, listen, my goal is to get married. Where are you? And he said, I'm also pursuing marriage.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
That's how we
Yes,
got
ma'am.
together.
That's
We,
right.
like you said, we were
Intention.
very compatible.
That's
We
really
said
fair.
that's what we wanted. We had similar goals. You know, we want to be married. And I said, okay, but how? Because that's the other thing too. We can be looking for marriage, but your marriage might be in 5 years when I'm ready now. And to him, and he was like, no, I'm ready. And I said, I'm ready as well.
Yeah.
Are you healed? I'm healed. And now that's a lot of people also think you have to be completely healed. Healing is a very long process.
Girl, we did it
process.
together. We did it in marriage. Thank the Lord.
Yes,
we did it.
It's a very long process. So,
But
just
we were
because-
aware that we were both
Correct.
in that state, and we
Right.
both needed that
Yeah.
healing. I love that, and I really, this is such a deep. I feel like there's more that needs to come from this. You have so much wisdom in this, and thank you so much for sharing your heart.
Yes,
I do want to make sure I get Alex. Give us some last minute thoughts, and then we're going to come to you, Kareem.
No. Like, this has been so eye-opening. It's really nice to know, like, everybody, and this is why I wanted to have this, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to get the perspective of people who have dated inside and outside of the church. And the fact that this conversation went naturally to healing, like, you know, it's funny because I'm like, I had an idea of like, we're going to talk about this, this, and this. And I feel like the Lord was like, no, I feel like we need to talk about this. Which just goes to show, before you even start looking in the church for your person, like, get your healing, be whole. And I went on that journey too, you know. So,
Amen.
and then you get to enter the really fun, messy world that is dating in the church.
But at least you're doing it as a healed person,
Right.
and not a
Right.
broken
With
person.
intention.
With intent, yeah. And you're setting the boundaries and not determining them
And find
as
that
you go.
community,
Good.
you know.
Yes, very
Yes,
important.
find the community that you don't have to just get married.
But
If-
yeah, and wrapping up too.
Yes,
Gotta-
Kareem, thank
sorry.
you so much. Thank you so
No
much
worries.
for all that. You guys have been so transparent. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
If I could leave like single people with anything, it's this. First, like Alex said, find community, right? Like you said, be healed, right? Those are big things. And my last point is, it's just coffee.
Amen.
Let me just, one more time, if it went over your head, it's just coffee. If you are single and you're a part of a singles ministry and somebody asks you to get coffee, you don't need to hear from the cross to go get coffee. It's just coffee. Get to know people, talk to people. I hate going into single ministries and seeing 150 singles, half guys, half girls, and nobody's dating.
Well,
Defeats the purpose, right? Anyway, so it's just coffee.
Don't freak out. Don't overthink it.
Don't
Don't
overthink
over
it. It's
spiritualize
just
it.
coffee.
don't over spiritualize it. And if you are being spirit led, the Holy Spirit will lead you.
Lead you right on to
and He'll give you
Starbucks.
peace, and peace is going to be the great. That's your
healing.
gauge. So thank you so much for watching this episode with us. We pray that this has ministered to you. We pray that it's encouraged you. That maybe some of the choices that you made, you're not alone. There's other, there's a reason why there are a lot of broken people. And so seek out your healing. We're here for you if you need prayer. If you need to talk to someone, you can reach out to us. You can email us at info@oneloveministries.org. You can reach out to us through social media. We are here for you. We are a community and we are family, and we want to be here for you. So thank you for watching Adventures in One Love. We hope that you check out the next episodes. Remember, it starts with one, and it starts with you. God bless you.
You should do this.
I do. One.
Sorry for going
Sorry for
25 whole
going.
minutes over.
Okay, but how dope was that conversation? You guys are amazing.
That was good.
So good.
Good.